Hello anatomy students. This is going to be our first bit of the integumentary system notes. So today we are going to be talking about our largest organ, which is our skin. Our skin is a large protective covering over our body. It has a variety of functions and a variety of properties which we are going to be going through today. So, your skin is composed of several different tissues. Those are going to be in specific layers. So, at the most superficial, we have the epidermis. This is stratified squamous cells. So this is many layers of flattened cells that we have in this top layer here of your epidermis. So this is the basic skin model you're going to see in any textbook. We are going to have the epidermis, then we are going to have a bit thicker of a dermis, and then a much thicker hypodermis, also called the subcutaneous layer. So the dermis is going to contain irregular, dense connective tissue. So this is what binds down the tough outer protective layer down to the rest of your body is the dense connective tissue, the dense irregular connective tissue. It has all of these collagen fibers that run in different directions, and it has elastin fibers that allows it to have give, be strong in multiple directions. Lastly, we have a subcutaneous layer, which is made of mostly adipose and other connective tissues. So, deepest of the layers of skin, we have fat that is under the dermis, and there is other connective tissue and vascular tissue within this. So this is going to be your main diagram of skin that you find in any textbook. It shows you the depth that we find most things, like the epidermis is avascular. When we get to the dermis, we are going to have some vascularity. So you can find this picture in your book on page 181, a very similar picture. So now we're going to go through the functions of your skin, which one of the main functions is it maintains homeostasis. It does this in a variety of ways. Here we have a way that your body is attempting to maintain homeostasis that's vestigial. It's not working anymore. So if you get cold, your hair stands up on end with goosebumps. This is no longer effective. Our body hair is not thin enough, is too thin on almost all of our body to provide additional warmth if it stands up on end. So your skin serves as a protective covering. It is rather tough. It can take a fair beating before it starts breaking open. It's not until we start going and throwing ourselves at speeds that our bodies aren't normally meant to go that it starts to not provide the level of protection that we need. So wear your leather on a motorcycle. Another protection that your skin is giving is it is giving you protection from ultraviolet light. The sun is giving off a continuous spectrum of light, and there is UV, of course, that reaches down and penetrates our atmosphere. UV light can cause cancer because it has enough energy to ionize atoms, which can damage DNA. So, to protect against this, we produce this compound melanin in our skins. Skin that is darker contains more melanin. So, you can of course see my map. If we have the equator run, I think, right there, as we trend towards the equator, the sunlight is obviously more intense. People have more melanin to protect them. If you're wondering, well, why doesn't everyone just have this melanin to protect them? Well, if you are in the extreme north and extreme south, we do need some UV. Everyone needs some UV to help synthesize vitamin D So there's this trade-off between protection from the harsh, intense sun versus ability to have light enough skin to get vitamin D. Today we mostly get around this problem by fortifying our food with vitamin D. So your skin has the function of retarding water loss. You do, of course, sweat through your skin. You do lose some moisture for your skin. But if you were to compare our human skin to, let's say, the skin of an amphibian, a frog or a salamander, a frog or a salamander, they have to stay wet, otherwise they're going to die because they're just going to lose water through their skin. We can survive in harsh environments because our skin retards water loss. Our skin also has a variety of ways that it regulates temperature, or sometimes just attempts to regulate temperature. So we're going to go through the sequence of how your body tries to deal with temperature change. So starting with warming up, your body sort of has a set list of things that it goes through if it is trying to warm up. So the first thing, which is the least extreme thing that it can do, is just inactivate your sweat glands. If you're getting too cold, then you shut your sweat glands down. You don't need to be excreting into sweat. The next thing that your body will do is it will start to constrict blood vessels to your outer skin. The only part of you that really needs to stay warm is your core. Your torso and your brain needs to maintain a temperature. The rest of you, it's not terribly important what temperature it maintains. Next, you will contract your erector pili muscles. Those are the muscles that attach to your hair that give you goosebumps. This is basically ineffective. In like a dog or a bear or a cat, this is effective. Their hair stands up and it allows them to trap more air in there, and it provides greater insulation, but for us it's generally ineffective. After that, you are going to start to have slight muscle contractions. Your muscles, when you use energy, when you are breaking down sugars to produce ATP, that process is only about 60% efficient. Only about 30% efficient, which means about 60% of that energy is lost as heat. So your body can just become more active, and if you become more active, that generates heat, which the most extreme of that is your body will start to full-on shiver, where your body is just moving itself for the sole purpose of to generate waste heat. So, to cool down, your body is going to do this in a reverse. If you're trying to stay cool, you're certainly not going to be shivering. You're going to send blood to your skin, and in the most extreme, you're going to start to sweat hard until you run out of water. So, to continue a little bit about body heat, so we have adipose tissue, which is fat, which helps hold heat. Your body temperature is controlled by the hypothalamus, which is that region in your brain. So we lose heat in a few different ways. We lose it via conduction. Conduction is when you are in contact with something. So if your butt is on a cold metal bleacher, you are losing heat to that bleacher via conduction. You lose heat via convection. That is, if you have a wind, if you have air currents moving over you, it's essentially just conduction to the air. Lastly, we are also losing heat via radiation. This guy, we can see him under night vision. He is giving off infrared radiation. We are radiating energy away from us. We also lose heat through evaporation. This is an incredibly effective way to lose heat. This is how we lose heat when we sweat. is we are putting liquid on our skin. It is effectively boiling off us, taking a massive amount of heat away. So here's a picture that I grabbed a few years ago of some indigenous people. They are harvesting blubber. So blubber is just adipose tissue. This adipose tissue, this fat, is incredibly good at insulation. It allows aquatic mammals to survive near freezing temperatures or freezing temperatures and maintain homeostasis. We have this same adipose tissue, not near that thickness, but we have adipose tissue within our skin to help maintain temperature. So, we are going to now go through some sensory receptors of the skin. So, one of the functions of your skin is it houses sensory receptors. You have various different receptors that sense different types of touch. So, you have thermoreceptors, sense heat, Meissner's corpuscle, sense touch, noroceptors, sense pain, Pachynin corpuscles, sense pressure. So you have a variety of different thermoreceptors. Some of these thermoreceptors turn on and off at different temperatures. Some of these thermoreceptors have some overlap. So if you get the temperatures over about near 45 degrees C, that starts to kick on your heat pain, like, ow, that's hot, I should stop touching that, it's causing tissue damage. Same way when you start getting down to near freezing, you start to have cold pain receptors turn on. In the middle, you have cold receptors and warm receptors that overlap 30 C, 35 degrees C, that's right around 70 degrees, which is probably why we find that to be a comfortable room temperature generally. So we have Meissner's corpuscles. These are just specialized groups of, these are just specialized cells that are sensing touch. There are nororeceptors that sense pain. So all of these receptors are sending information back to the central nervous system. So there's going to be something that triggers a nerve ending. So here we're looking at a nororeceptor. This guy's been rather dumb and he just smacked his finger with a hammer. So that is going to trigger this free nerve ending, this nororeceptor. That is going to communicate to a peripheral nerve, which is going to get to the spinal cord. That information is then going to be transmitted up to the brain. There are Pachynin corpuscles. These sense pressure. So your skin contains a few immune cells. It contains Langerhans cells. Your skin, as I said when we were looking back at the skin color map, it does synthesize some chemicals. The main thing it synthesizes is a vitamin D. So to make vitamin D, your skin needs UVB. Without this radiation, you cannot synthesize it, which is why we are hard up for it in the winter, but there's less sun, but we generally get around that by fortifying food today. Your skin also secretes small amount of waste. This is not your sweat, it's not the salts in your sweat. It secretes a few ammonia compounds, but I don't have any useful imagery for this. So that is going to complete the notes for today. So if you got to the end here, thank you and have a good day.